This is Photoshop from the ground up. I'm Peter Law. In our last episode, we looked at some color theory. We looked at how red and cyan are opposite colors, green and magenta are opposite colors, blue and yellow are opposite colors, and that adding one and subtracting the other are the same thing. Now we're going to apply that knowledge to the color correction of an image right here. Now this image looks a little too cool, so we are going to add the adjustment color balance. That's Command B on the Mac or Control B on the PC. Image, adjustments, and color balance is the menu path to get there. So what I've got is I've got three sliders down here, and I've got a few radio buttons and a checkbox. As for the radio buttons, most of the time you're going to want to adjust the mid-tones. And this is usually because your camera was on the incorrect white balance setting. You'll also want to make sure that you're preserving luminosity because Photoshop uses 3 channels in order to create your image. As you boost this, you're not only going to change the color characteristics, you're actually going to change the brightness of that channel, which is going to affect colors. So Photoshop is going to try and keep it from changing the relative brightness of the image as you change the colors in the image. So I'm going to look at this, and when things look a little bit too cold, what I usually start with is adding some yellow. So I'm going to add yellow right here. And I'm going to add too much on purpose. And then I'm going to start to make this slider go back until the image looks better. And I think that's a good spot. The next thing I want to do is I want to take the red and cyan because I'm seeing that this thing still looks a little bit funny. I'm noticing that it's got a cyan color cast to it. And you might not notice that because my eyes are kind of trained to see that from a lot of experience doing this. But it still looks like it could maybe be not quite so natural. And I also know that a too cold white balance setting is not quite all blue. It's blue cyan. So you add amber in order to correct it. And amber is a lot of yellow and a little bit of red. So I'm going to add some red. Add too much. And then back it off. So that's kind of how I would go about this. Oftentimes, though, if you don't know how to look for a color cast, you can just start moving the sliders around. And, does it make the image look better or worse? And sometimes what you'll end up doing is you'll sort of correct for one color cast and you'll expose another one. Like I did with the blue, I corrected the blue color cast and exposed a bit of a cyan color cast, which was just a lesser color cast. Because unless the color cast is exactly specific to one of these 6 primary or secondary colors, then there's going to be a bit of adjustment in at least 2 places. Something else you can do if you want to do this kind of more of a by the numbers approach, I'm going to cancel out of here, is you can come down here and I'm going to try and find something that's going to be roughly neutral. Should be neutral and hopefully a midtone. I'm going to go to my eyedropper tool. And I am going to make sure that I have my info panel. That's F8, or you can go Window, Info. And as I hover over an area, actually something else I want to do is I want to change this so I've got like an 11 by 11 sample. And that just means that if I, click on a pixel that's kind of got a stray color just on a pixel level, it's not going to skew my averages here. So it's going to take a little bit of an average. And I'm going to hold my Shift key, and that's going to add the add point. It's going to make my eyedropper an add point. There we are. I'm just going to click there, and you'll notice I've got some numbers. This number 1 corresponds with this eyedropper that's kind of vanishing because the color's kind of neutral and it's a gray graphic. So that's kind of what it's seeing. And right now the numbers that it's getting, this is on the RGB scale, so those numbers go from 0 to 255. 147, 162, 188. Now, if this is neutral, these 3 colors will be roughly in the same place. So I'm going to use that keyboard shortcut. That's Command B on the Mac, Control B on the PC to bring up the dialog box again. And I'm going to start moving this yellow slider. And as I do, 157, 171, 181. Well, we're getting closer. All right, 174 and 178. Good. Now we need a little bit more red. So I'm going to pump that up a little bit. All right, so I've got 166, 168, 172, so maybe there's just a hair too much blue, so I'm just going to push that just a bit. All right, yeah. 167, 170, 171. Well, I can try pushing this red a little bit. You might never get it to match up exactly. Close enough. There we are, 168, 169, 171. That is pretty close. Let's kind of zoom out and see how we did. So I'm going to push Command minus a bunch of times to zoom out, and here's the image. So this is sort of how you would use that to color correct by the numbers. If you know that something is neutral in the image and you really don't know where to start in terms of eyeballing it, that's another way of going about it. Anyways, I hope that was helpful. In our next episode, we're going to look at some more adjustments, I believe. If you want to come check out my site, it's plphotodesign.com. I work as a professional photographer and graphic designer, and if you're in the Quinte area, I'm for hire. Otherwise, check me out on Facebook at PL Photo Design, or Peter Law Photo and Design, I should say. And yeah, this is Photoshop from the ground up, and I'm Peter Law.